you guys all recorded? You guys play mainly with backing tracks, or do you do your own backing tracks? You guys make your own? Okay, so you make your own and stuff. Yeah, both. Cool. Blues mainly, staying with a style, or mostly? Okay, cool. And when you're writing a bass line or playing a bass line, what's your general approach to it?
As simple as possible. That sounds right.
And that's perfect. That's great. Make it simple. Make it sound. Make it and groove. Make it groove. But there's some note choices. So let's go to our second page with our scale, our Mixolydian scale. So obviously we have a lot of notes there, right? You got 7 notes plus the octave. You're not going to play all of those when you're constructing a bass line, but it's nice to know that scale, that pattern. So I like the arpeggios. Learn these. Just get these patterns down and practice them as you would practicing scales. So it's going to take you a while to actually get them to become more musical, but just get them down. It'll kind of open your ears up. And even if you can play them behind that chord, just to hear what it sounds like. Even just rudimentary, just 8 notes. Up and down, just to get that down, just to get it underneath your fingers. Now, wherever I move that pattern, that's going to change. So it's all Mixolydian. It just depends on what my root note is. So if I start on E flat, it's going to be E flat Mixolydian. If I start on F sharp, it's going to be F sharp Mixolydian. Wherever that pattern is. So that's kind of a nice thing. That's the nice thing about bass. You don't have that B. No, I don't like that. So this is all fours. The pattern. Once you learn a pattern, it's the same. You don't have to worry about it. So it's I don't call it cheating. I don't refer to it as cheating.
It's more consistent.
It's more consistent. There you go. I like that. Yes. So anywhere you play that pattern. And you were asking about chords. So on the fingerboards up top, I wrote a G7 and a C7. Now, again, those voicings can be moved anywhere. So for a G7, if I play that on A, that's going to be an A7, B flat 7, B7, C, C sharp, whatever it is. So I'm playing my root, my minor 7, and my third. But having them spread out like that makes it sound kind of nice and open, and not as thick as I was. If I was playing this is just a bunch of it's just too many notes or too low at one point coming to you. So that I like that voicing, and then I like this voicing also. So it's root, major third, and the minor 7. So anywhere I play that is going to be dominant 7. Yes.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm not part of this group. I'm looking for this guy Prince from Groove.
Oh, Prince from Groove here is in the main room over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I already knew that stuff.
Oh, dude. Well, good for you, man.
I've been doing it for 40 years.
Cool. Awesome, man. Good. So yeah, Prince.
But you know what? You guys got to learn the notes of the chord. Learn that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That way you know when he's saying 1, 3, he's talking major third or minor third. You want to know that stuff completely. I teach us ABCs because those are G, A, B, C, D, F, G. Once you learn that ABCs, major, minor, minor, major, 7, what she's talking about.
Oh, man.
And once you get that, it's the same in every key. And you're like, wow, it's just right there.
Yeah.
And you go, and then you'll be starting hearing it on your records, and you're like, that's what he's doing. I love it. I know what I'm doing. You want to know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just wiggling your fingers.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man.
There you go. Okay, guys.
Right on, man.
That's what she said.
Cool. All right. So the two voicings.
You say that out loud.
So the way for chords on bass, instead of like strumming like that, again, there's a lot of low coming at you. I kind of play it like, let's say, like a jazz guitar. So I use my thumb for the low note, the higher notes I use my index and my middle finger. So just makes it sound nice and open, a little bit nicer. And then up here, yeah. So, but you can incorporate any of that into a bass line you see fit, or just just to add a little color. So, yeah. Any questions on chords or anything? No? Bass chords. And like I said, just concentrating on dominant 7 because blues, that's what we're talking about. So, and as far as scales, what do you guys know? Do you guys know the modes? Are you guys, yeah, okay. Modes, the pentatonic modes? You guys know those
Mostly
too?
we stick with the major and minor pentatonic.
That's what you're saying.
with the
Okay,
riff.
cool. All right, all right. So, so let's just talk about building a bass line, just a basic line. So on that second page, I have that G7 and C7. So basically, it's just the bass line is this. Root, third, root, 6, 7, major 7. Right? That right there, to me, sounds a little bit more. So you're doing some voice leading into that next chord. Yeah, to me it sounds a little better, a little hipper than just resorting to this. You know, I mean, there's a time and place for that. Boogie woogie, it works for certain things. But if you really want to get a little bit more into the chord and use some voice leading, you know, it's kind of nice to use that root. And you can always, you know, keep it simple. Repeat notes. Repeat the root twice. The third. So that's the same thing. Just a different octave. I just moved it around. So, and so when you're constructing, I don't know, blues bass line, what do you usually use chord-wise or chord tones?
Just the chord tone is the easiest.
Root third fifth. Okay. So even with that, like you could take root third fifth and then do the flat 5 into that third. Into those chords and do a little voice leading, it just sounds better than just resorting to that one pattern. So again, learning those chord tones and what belongs in those chords. So, and any one of these can be translated or used in any style. I mean, I'm just playing like a quarter note walking style, but literally you can play it in. What other styles do you guys like of music?
Well, rock.
Rock.
Some country.
Country rock. Metal.
Okay.
What would Steve Harris do?
Yeah, exactly. Anything he wants.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I play bass, man, is Steve Harris.
He would do it. He would anything he wants with a gallop pattern.
Yeah. But he would do it with a P bass. He would do it with precision.
Yeah.
That right there, that's all he plays, man. So if I'm just playing like a fun thing and I'm playing that, those are the only notes I'm allowed to play. So. So I'm just playing those same notes. I took a couple liberties. But seriously, just playing those same notes, just with a different feel, a different groove. That's all. You know, putting in a little flavor, a little bit of syncopation in there too. And I think I talked about this in the earlier class. Learning that syncopation, like, it's just important. Not just one and, two and, not just downbeat and upbeat, but the E and 16th notes is super important to know, and that just expands your vocabulary too. So that you're not just playing. Now, again, nothing wrong with that if that's what the song calls for or anything, but if you want to kind of just, I don't know, take a bigger bite into playing bass, it kind of helps to learn that. Any questions? I want to open up a little bit, just to different bass stuff. Have any of you guys ever gigged playing
Not
bass?
playing.
Or
Well,
bass?
not playing bass.
Yeah, I've done a Willie Nelson tribute.
Awesome, and you play bass on it? Okay, cool. Excellent.
Of course, I didn't know a note of bass when he asked me to do it. So I listened to a lot of Willie, but it's all basic, really
Yeah,
basic
okay.
walking stuff. So it's not the complicated stuff you're doing.
Well, not even, so that's another thing too, is just whatever suits the song.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, you know, is like, you don't want to play, you don't want to do that when somebody's just playing a blues thing. It's like, what are you doing? What, are you crazy? Like, if I, like with Steve on that, if I started doing all that, it's like, you're crazy. No, it's just serve the song or serve whatever you're playing, you know. So I always just like to keep it simple and, you know, choose a couple of chord tones, concentrate on root, third, and fifth. Don't concentrate so much on sevenths when you're building a bass line. Obviously, there's always the exceptions, but that seventh can cause a little bit of you know, dissonance. But it depends. Depends on what kind of line. But if you're doing like a jump blues or just a swing type of thing, you know, roots, thirds, and fifths work really well, and they'll voice lead into the next chord too. So, yeah. Questions? No.
Am I the only guy in here that hasn't played bass?
No, there's a lot of people that haven't. Yeah.
But I hear the bass line, and everything, I hear the bass line, I'm going, God, I should learn how to play bass.
You should.
Yeah.
Says the bass guy.
Says the
I hear
bass
the
guy.
bass, I'm going, their arm gets tired of me waiting.
Not really. It's the same. You know, you just kind of get used to it. Yeah. It's
You'll always have a gig.
You'll always-
That's what they don't do for bass players.
What if you did want to get into bass, but obviously you want to get in entry level? What are the things to watch out for in the entry level?
I will tell you and I told this before, the best bass right now on the market for the cheapest is the Squier Vintage Modified, either jazz bass or precision bass. 4-string, 5-string, P or J, hands down it'll blow you away. I don't have mine, and mine's at home, but I gig that thing, I take it to sessions, it just blows people away that it's a freaking Squier. But it is, I don't know what they did, they're making a mistake by selling them so cheap, but literally it's the vintage modified jazz bass or vintage modified precision bass by Squier.
So like $300 or something like that?
Yes, yeah, and a 4-string is like 200. A 5-string is like 300, and they've got Seymour Duncan pickups. And to tell you the truth,
Wow.
if you need to, just get a set of pickups and drop it in. But I didn't drop in pickups for a while. I played it like crazy, and then I put some friends of mine some pickups in. But those Seymour Duncans, I mean, that's hands down the bass to get. And if you're going to be using it for recording, I just recommend getting a precision bass like this one. With the one pickup, it's a split. It's a split humbucking. But to tell you the truth, 9 times out of 10 for recording, when I go to a session, I go, this is the bass that works. Just plug it in and sonic space, it just fits. It's a very different sounding beast by itself. It doesn't sound, it just doesn't have a pristine, refined kind of pretty sound. But somehow when it's recorded, it's just kind of barky and woofy. It's just kind of this raw kind of thing, but recorded, it just works. It really, you know, when Leo Fender came up with the design, I really think he just hit it out of the park. With, I mean, on so many levels, Strat, Tele, P-bass, jazz bass, I mean, it just works. So, just a $200 precision Squier vintage modified, man. You can gig with it. You can take it on the road. I mean, honestly, they're great.
And then just work the scales.
Yeah, work scales. I mean,
But then you don't feel it in the scales.
yeah. I mean, at first, it's one of those things that you have to learn. You have to learn it in road fashion. You just have to learn it to learn it. And you have to just play these scales, and they're going to sound like scales for a while, you know. And then you can start, you know, the more you get it down, then it starts becoming like, oh, I can play it like this, and it actually sounds musical. You know, I mean, all I've been playing are scales. That's it. It's just
Same basic scales on 4 strings instead of 6.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's differences though. There's you know, I mean, every instrument has, you know, different nuances, but it is a different beast. You know, there's different techniques and.
But if you know your scales on your guitar, you should be able to know the
You
scales.
should.
like this, right?
You should. Yeah. All you do is just transfer them over. That's it. Yeah. I mean, the notes are pretty much the same. And then learning the fretboard this way instead of just this way is helpful too. Do you guys know the circle of fourths and fifths? Do you guys? Okay.
Some do, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean,
Circle
that's
fits, Mo.
that's an important thing and an important concept to really have down, especially for practicing. Just taking them, like let's say, okay, so on this bass, my lowest note is in E, right? And my highest note is in E flat or D sharp. So, in the key of C major, what is my lowest note that I can play on this bass? In the key of C major?
E.
E. Okay, and what is E in the key of C? Third. The third. What's my highest note I can play on this bass? Said I had an E flat.
D.
D, exactly. So a simple exercise is taking that key and playing from the lowest to the highest. So if I'm going E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E. Then I go to my G major. So in G major, what is my lowest note that I can play on this bass?
G.
In G?
E sharp.
E. So what is E in the key of G?
Six.
It's my sixth. What's my highest note that I can play in G major on this bass?
D.
D. Exactly. What's D in the key of G?
Yeah, fifth.
Your fifth. Okay. So then you go from lowest, E. Now, what's my, in the key of G major, what is my one sharp? What's my accidental? F sharp. So E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, E, C, B, A, G, F sharp, B, D, C, B, A, G, F sharp, B, D, C, B, A, G, F sharp, B. And you go to D major, and you go to A major, and so, and then
that was the same pattern both times, right?
not, well, kind of. Like I'm using some patterns, but a lot of times I'm just really trying to know that fingerboard. You know, I'm really, I mean, I've done that exercise a million times through the, I mean, and it still kicks my butt, you know, it's really one of those exercises, but you really just, it's knowing the fretboard and practicing slow enough that you don't make mistakes. If you're practicing and making mistakes, and the same mistakes, you're practicing too fast. You need to slow down or turn that metronome off and just get that underneath your fingers until you can play it with some semblance of time. And there's nothing wrong with that, just learning that. So that exercise just shows, really is good to open up your mind and stop just playing patterns. So there's good and bad to all of it, you know, I mean, you have to emphasize playing patterns when you're beginning, when you're learning, so you can just get these down, but you eventually want to get away from that and really know your fretboard. And know that, you know, any note on the fretboard, I know where it is. And any note on the fretboard that you guys have, you should know your notes. It's never going to change, ever. So you should know that. And there's some way to practice that to actually have that down and really know it. I mean, in the last class, somebody, I forget how it came up with the bass clef, and it's like, well, yeah, I thought about writing it in treble clef, but I'm not, because this is the language. This is the language that we all speak, and we all need, and I read treble clef. So you guys should read bass clef. That's
Fair
it.
enough. Don't read treble.
No, but you should. I mean, I'm a bass player. I should read treble clef, but I do, you know, and it all helps. And then getting rhythms down, the book that I recommended was The Modern Reading Text by Louis Belson. All it is a bunch of just rhythms. It's the same note. I don't even think it's in a clef. It's like where A or where C would be, right? And it's just rhythms. And it progressively gets a little more difficult to real syncopation. And you can take it by, you know, and practice it by just playing single note or do scales, but it really will get you in the habit of counting and knowing where you're at and playing that syncopation. Because as a bass player, really, you know, drummers always practice that. Bass players kind of don't sometimes. So it's nice if you're playing with a drummer that, you know, or when a drummer's playing with a bass player, they can really dig into that and feel those different hits and those different rhythms. It's really kind of cool. So, and with guitar players too, I mean, so whose responsibility is the groove?
The bass and the drummer.
The drummer, yeah.
Bass and drummer.
Everybody, really.
Who agrees with him?
What did you say?
Everybody.
Get out of town.
That's the way it's been working
It's
this week.
everybody.
It's everybody, man. If you don't, I mean, you have to have pocket. You got to have groove. If you don't have groove, you're going to be irritating a lot of people. You're gonna be pissing people off.
Trust me,
man.
I know. I irritate
So,
everybody. I
yeah,
think.
Not just the ones on stage either.
Yeah, but getting
audience.
that pocket, man, and just practicing just that groove.
You know when you get it, that's for sure, when you're playing, you know when you get it.
You know, yeah. So,
What's that book again?
Louis Bellson, Modern Reading Text. Louis Bellson was a famous big band jazz drummer, and he wrote a couple of books. He wrote the Modern Reading Text in 4/4, and then he wrote the Odd Time Reading Text. But the one in 4/4 is great, and it just helps to bless you. It helps you just a great book, and you can play chords. I mean, you can expand. It just gives you like one note, but obviously you can use scales, you can use chord tones, you can use some picking exercises with that, just to really get into that. And it's just part of your vocabulary that we should all know. We should all know. So, yeah, I don't know, I kind of emphasize that. And just knowing the fretboard, man, that's so important. So, any other questions? Yes?
I have heard one thing that the bass player should always try to do is make sure that essentially they're hitting a note at the same time the kick drum is going on. Is that true?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when you're locking in. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's going to set up some kind of groove, and it's not always the case, but yeah, in general, if I go up and play with a band or jam, I'm looking at that kick drum and I'm going, okay, where's he putting it? That's where it is, and it just makes everything feel better.
Yeah.
But then again, a kick drum could be doing a pattern and you're just playing 8 notes.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the song. And a lot of times when I play with a new drummer, everybody has a different sense of time. You know, here's real time. Some people are behind, some people are ahead. And that's just the way it is. And drummers are the same way. And being a bass player, when you're walking into a situation, you kind of have to, you assess each other and go, okay, well, where are you putting it? Okay, I'll go where you are, or I'll go where you are. And hopefully everything is in
Who
agreement.
gets the blame when it don't work?
No, well,
Everybody.
yeah, everybody, yeah.
The lead singer.
They go through a whole
They don't
song,
get
and
blamed
the
for
audience is like, that was great, and then the guy goes through it, that was
Sure do.
wonderful.
Sure do.
Yeah,
I get
well,
blamed for
it's
everything when I
being-
sing.
Yeah.
When you're that
Just
close
ask
to
my
it, you
drummer.
know? I mean, to tell you honestly, I mean, you
But
know,
everybody slows down, the whole band has to slow down and get in the groove, right?
Yeah, well,
And it sounds,
depends. Depends. I mean, there's slowing down and there's laying back.
Yeah.
there's really kind of a, there's human element, there's ebb and flow. But I think that there's sometimes where it's like, whoa, like, dude, what are you doing? Like, come on, no, don't slow down too much. If you're talking 10 clicks on a metronome, that's pretty gnarly. But when I start playing, I really look at where they're putting that kick drum. They're putting it right on the beat, they're putting it behind, and then I just adjust. They're like, okay, cool, I'll play with you or whatever. So, yeah, and even guitar players, I mean, everybody should on that bandstand be able to hear everybody, and everybody should be able to really kind of assess where everybody's at. Like, oh, the singer's a little pitchy, drummer kind of plays on top of the beat, but that bass player is laying in back. Everybody should be a producer on stage, and be able to hear all that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, we're all striving to get to that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, all we can hear is, what did I forget?
which is I forget who wrote that book, but that 10,000 hours,
Yeah.
of
Right.
doing something. You just have to do it. And I think even before, it's like, just even playing outside, like when you're playing in your room, you're Steve Vai, you are Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're just ripping. And then when you get here, you're like, nothing works. But the more you do that, and the more you put yourself in these situations, the more you just get calm. Like, it's just a game, man. It's just playing. So having fun. So I think that's important too, is putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and learning how to overcome and how your brain kind of reacts to it instead of like, freak out. Okay, no, I know how to calm down. I know what I'm doing. So I think that's an important thing too. So do jam sessions, and is everybody in a band? You're in a band, okay. You got anybody striving to be in a band or jam? Okay.
Yeah, I think all of us are striving to get
All right,
there.
cool. Like junior colleges are always great for. They always have like
I
improv
just did
classes.
that. They've taken a rock ensemble class.
It's
It's the
killer.
best thing I ever signed up for.
Yeah, I mean it takes you out of your comfort
Yeah,
zone.
it was great, young,
Yeah.
music major kid, they're not kids, young adults. and
Yeah,
they're-
yeah.
They're really pushing me.
Yeah,
They're kids.
They're kids.
Yeah.
Darn kids, Brian.
Hate them all. Hate them all.
Yeah, Yeah, so I definitely think putting yourself in uncomfortable situations help you kind of overcome that.
Well, that's what Griff was saying last year on stage. He says, when you leave here,
Yeah.
go get yourself in a jam session somewhere.
That's
You
it,
know, you
man.
just kept
Yeah,
still waiting.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's
What are you waiting for, man?
I know. Where are you from?
No, you
What
don't,
area?
don't wait, man.
Ventura?
Oh, you're
Yeah, I'm local.
you're local.
Well, they have
Just
those.
get out there and do
There's
it.
people in Ventura.
Well, I know a lot of them too, and they're all going, come down and play, come down and play, come down and play. I'm going,
Yeah, when you're ready, you know.
Just gotta do it.
You just gotta
gotta
do it.
it.
Nike.
First couple
Nike.
of times are terrifying, and then you get hooked.
well, like
Yeah.
last year coming out of here, you just get on stage and all of a sudden your pick can't find the string.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's
Then
what
find the string, your
that's-
left hand's not working, you go, wait a second, come
Yeah.
back, you know, where was I?
When you do get it in the sink, it doesn't sound
It's like
right.
a BB King, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, it's just doing it, and you just become accustomed to it. So, yeah, I guess, any other questions, or? So on the last page, I actually wrote out just a basic blues and a way to approach a blues using just chord tones and a lot of passing tones, a lot of leading tones. So any one of, I'll kind of play it.
There's something you're doing
Mhm.
that it's almost like a, yeah. What
Yeah,
is
that's
it?
just, that's candy, man. That's just a little icing. That's,
But that's the difference between
Spice,
sounding like
spice.
boom, 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 and,
Yeah.
and making it sound good.
yeah, it's a little, yeah. So I guess that's just.
Is it just thrown in like a?
It's almost, it's the last
the-
16 notes, like 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
but
But it's almost like it's not a note.
yeah, it's like a muted note.
Is that what it is?
A lot of
Yeah.
upright guys. So I used to play a lot of double bass and upright,
Okay.
and a lot of the double bass guys will play those ghost notes,
Mhm.
muted notes. So yeah, it's kind of like muted note when you're playing like
Okay.
just a groove, you know. Just giving it a little. It just gives it a little propulsion,
Gives it
you
the
know.
flavor,
Yeah,
yeah,
it just gives you that. So any one of these measures can actually be a bass line in itself. I mean, it's just up to you to kind of give it a different flavor, a different rhythm, Latin, jazz, whatever. So, I always like volume. I mean, that's just basically going from my root to my 6, to my flat 7, to my 7. I mean, it sounds basic, but it kind of just, it works, you know, and then going into my C, kind of in the same manner. And you always want to hear those chord changes. You always want to hear, I mean, I'm just playing bass by myself, but you want to hear. That's the chord, and that's the bass player's job. And that's why playing that root, and even playing the 3rd and the 5th are just important. And then there's this whole concept of strong beat, weak beat, harmonically, as opposed to rhythmically. So there's, yeah, we don't have to get into that, but
Yeah.
that's why
It's
staying
not something
with
I-
those chord tones will really help that, especially root on the downbeat. I know it's kind of one of those things, but that's kind of our job all the time. You know, that bass player, for me, that's my job. And I think with Steve, when we were kind of jamming, I ended up hanging on that 5 for a little bit just to add some tension, but that's just, like, it's just kind of icing. But to tell you the truth, most of the time, it's like, I want to hear those chords, and you should hear those chords, no matter what's going on. So, any questions or anything? No? I didn't know that. Let's see. What kind of, okay, so who has a bass here? You have a bass, what kind of bass again?
It's an Epiphone, Les Paul.
Okay, it's a Les Paul style. Anybody else? Bass? What do you got?
Yeah, just bought a Squire Jaguar.
Nice. The
short
E
scale
bass
one.
with the jazz. Oh, the short scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
And
it was a bit of a stretch.
yeah, it's just, yeah, it is a little bit longer scale. So, but it's the same thing. Like you know, you don't play your guitar like this. You play it like this. It becomes, it's not that tough. I don't know. At least, well, guitar's tough for me, so I should. Yeah. And I'm a guitar owner, and I'm not a good guitar player at all, man. It's bad. So, so yeah, technique-wise about the same. So cool. And then recording, do you guys use direct boxes? What do you guys use for recording?
I was going to ask. I do a lot of computer-based recording.
Awesome.
So I don't ever mic my amp.
That's fine.
So I go directly in. Is there anything that you have to compensate for or to be careful of when you're going into your interface?
Yeah, I do a lot of recording, home recording. I use Apogee, a lot of Apogee equipment to go into my digital audio workstation, my DAW. It's always nice to have some kind of direct box that maybe can, you can kind of fiddle with your tone. It has like a preamp section, bass, mid, or treble. So that's always nice. You're just going out of your bass into.
Well, I don't have a bass yet.
Oh, you don't have a bass yet.
But
Yeah, a good DI.
I do my bass lines
on keyboard, yeah. No, I always like SansAm, so there's different ones. So when you're recording, you either want super clean or you want a little dirt on it, so there's different direct boxes. The SansAm bass driver DI is really good. That's a super popular one. It actually emulates an SVG, kind of gives it a little bit of distortion. You're gonna ask?
I have a TV mixer.
Oh, okay.
8-channel mixer into Mixcraft.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
For sure, all.
Okay.
It handles my mics, my
And your
keyboard,
bass and everything.
guitar and all.
Okay. Yeah, so any kind of direct box, even what is it? Radial makes the JDI. That's a great box. If you want to spend a little more, A Designs makes a Ready, the Red DI, which I have, which it has a tube in it. So it's always nice to have that kind of tube warm, if that's what you're after. It's kind of nice. You can even use a guitar amp's front end and go out and go, use the preamp section of a guitar amp, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, and you guys go to thebasshang.com. That's my website. I have a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of recording stuff on there, and me geeking out basically on bass stuff. It's kind of sad, but it's yeah. But yeah, it's recording is fun because it really you can't hide. It is what it is. So yeah, super honest. So and a P-bass, just 9 times out of 10, I think will definitely work. So any other questions? No?
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
No, absolutely. All right, cool. I guess yeah, just keep it simple. I mean, chord tones, and I guess that's it. Yeah. And go buy a bass. Go buy a Squire.
My nephew's got one of those Squires.
Dude, they're
He's like 16, 15 years old,
Yeah.
doesn't use it. And I'm going, can I buy that thing?
should. Yeah.
Forget to return.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I have a couple more sets of strings. Anybody?
Sure.
Wait, I don't want to chop anybody's head
Whoa.
off. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Mike
No, go
wants
ahead.
some too.
Do you know who Tal Witzenberg is?
Cal Wilkenfeld?
Welcome.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
My son and her are very, very good friends.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, you kidding me? He goes, because he didn't know who she was. They
Oh,
didn't
geez.
have-
How did they?
He went to a Halloween party about 5 years ago down
Okay.
in the valley, and
Uh-huh.
they ended up talking again. And he came home one day. I mean, he's 28 years old. He
Okay.
came home and he said, "Hey, you know, Tal?" I go, "Doesn't she play bass with
Yeah,
Jeff
with Jeff Beck.
Yeah, and they've been very good friends. So I'm going, that's a good connection.
She's incredible.
Yeah, she
Girl
really is.
really-
Little tiny thing.
And just tear your face
She
off.
was super young when she got that gig.
Yeah,
too.
she
Wow.
was.
She was like 19 or
Yeah,
20
she
years
was
old.
Well, she came over
Yeah.
here from Australia when she was 18 or 19.
Wow.
And then she started playing with him at like 21 or 22.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
so she's
and
playing
for Carl on drums, or not for Carl, sorry, Caluta.
Carl's But Tristan said that she just got all these
Accolades
the
and
bases,
basses.
all just hanging all over the house.
Yeah, like here, play my bass.
Yeah.
Just take it. Yeah. So, all right, guys. No last question. Everything. All right. Go get a bass. Play some bass.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Fun.
Thank you. Hope it was a little informative.
So,
Cool. Thank you.
Tim.